Hey everyone, this is Neha from Edureka and I welcome you all to this session on Spring AOP tutorial. Let's look at the agenda for the session. First and foremost, I will give you a brief overview on Spring AOP and why do we need aspect-oriented programming. Next, we will discuss some core concepts of aspect-oriented programming. Once you understand the basics of AOP, then we will dive into the practical part and learn how to create Spring AOP along with examples. After that, we will see different advice types in AOP like after, before, around, etc. And finally, I will wrap up the session by explaining you about AspectJ example. Without any further ado, let's get straight into the module. First, we will understand what is Spring AOP, that is aspect-oriented programming. Spring AOP enables aspect-oriented programming in Spring applications. In AOP, aspects enable the modularization of concerns like transaction management, logging, or security that cut across multiple types and objects. And AOP provides the way to dynamically add the cross-cutting concerns before, after, or around the actual logic using simple pluggable configurations. It makes easy to maintain the code in the present as well as future. You can add and remove concerns without recompiling the complete source code simply by changing the configuration files. So why do we need this AOP? As you all know, it provides the pluggable way to dynamically add the additional concern before, after, or around the actual logic. Suppose say there are 10 methods as shown in the figure, and there are 5 methods that starts from A, that is A1 to A5, and 2 methods from B and 3 that starts from C. So first, let's understand the scenario. Here, what I have to do is I have to maintain the log and send the notification after calling the method that starts from A. So what you might think that will be the problem without using AOP? First thing, we can call the methods that maintains log and sends notification that starts with A. In such scenario, what happens? We need to write the code in all the 5 methods, correct? But if in future client says I don't have to send the notification, you need to change all the methods, and that leads to maintenance problem. And that's exactly why we need AOP. So what is the solution that we have with AOP? Here we don't have to call the methods from the method, but we can define the additional concern like maintaining log, sending notification, etc. Later I'll tell you how to do that. In future, if client says to remove the notifier functionality, we need to change only in the XML file. So maintenance is very easy in aspect-oriented programming. So that's the whole concept why we need aspect-oriented programming in Springs. Now, let's move further and understand some core concepts of AOP. There are many as such like aspect, join point, advice, point cut, target object, weaving, proxy, etc. So first we'll see what is aspect. An aspect is a class that implements the Java Enterprise Application concerns which cuts through multiple classes like transaction management, security, etc. And aspects can be a normal class that is configured through Spring XML configuration. So what is advice? Advices are the actual actions taken for a particular join point. Basically, they are the methods that gets executed when a certain join point meets a matching point cut in the application. So here you can see you have the program execution and these are the join points and the point cut, and there we have the aspect code, that is the advice. So what is a join point? It's a point in the program such as method execution, exception handling, etc. Yes, and that is also a candidate point in the program execution where an aspect can be plugged in. So what is a point cut? Point cuts are the expressions that are matched with the join points to determine whether advice needs to be executed or not. So again we have target object, that is the objects on which advices are applied, and in Spring a subclass is created at runtime where the target method is overridden and advices are included based on their configuration. And also we have proxy, that is a proxy which is an object that is created after applying advice to the target object. In terms of client, the objects, the target object and the proxy object are all same. So what is weaving? It is a process of linking an aspect with other application types or objects to create an advised object. So this is all about the core AOP concepts. having understood this, let's move further and see what are the steps required to create AOP and how join point, advice, aspect, point cut, everything are applied. So these are the 4 main steps. Very first thing is that we need Maven dependencies. In actual, you need to create a Maven project and add all the dependencies. Next, you must write aspect and point cut expressions. After this, you have to write the methods, that is join points. And finally, you should write the main class and run the application. So for Maven dependencies, just type mvn repository, click on the first link. So in this Maven repository, you can find all your jar files. So basically say I want Spring jar. So you can see here you have Spring Web, Spring Beans, Core, Context. Say I want Spring Context and the latest release will be 5.1.3. Here you can see the dependency code being present over here. You have to just copy this. And this dependency code is required to import all the jars of Spring Context. You have to paste it in the pom.xml file. Open your Eclipse, that is for Enterprise Edition. Click on New and give here as Maven. Choose Maven project, click Next. Allow it to use workspace default location only. Here you can see there are so many archetypes. Like for plugin, plugin start, profile, you have for web app, site, site simple. But I want to choose quick start as I'm not running anything on the web. Click on Next. And now it will say group ID is com.edureka. And next it will ask for artifact ID. You can give artifact ID depending on your project. I'll give it like Spring AOP. Finish. So here you can see you got Spring AOP project file. Click on that and click on the pom.xml file. So here you can see your group ID, your artifact ID, your version, your packaging, that is the jar package. And the name of the project is Spring and the URL will be your maven.apache.org because it is an Apache product. And you can see here the dependencies of simple JUnit that will be present in your Maven dependencies as I already told you. I have not imported this jar file, but it has already been imported internally from the remote location. So you can see it is present in users and Neha and followed by this path. As you know, I have copied the Spring jar files, correct? So I will tell you one thing here. For Spring, you need to go on importing all the jar files, finding them in the website and then importing it here again. It's a very complicated task, right? What we'll do is the code that is being present over here, that is the dependencies, we'll copy that and we will just paste it over here and save this. It will take a little while. So here you can see as I just pasted the dependency code for Spring Context, it imported all the jar files, that is Context, AOP, Beans, Core, JCL, expression, everything. It's very simple, just copying the code from Maven repository and coming over here and pasting it in pom.xml. Simple thing. Again say I want the code for AOP. So it is showing here that you have the Spring AOP jar. You can again copy it and paste it and say you want AspectJ jar. So when you type AspectJ jar, you can see here you have AspectJ Weaver, runtime, JRT, tools, everything. So you need to copy and paste all these over there. The latest release. Copy. Again. Paste it after this dependency. So even that came over here now. Again, I want AspectJ runtime. So even AspectJRT jar got imported over here. Similarly, I will import all the other jars as well. So basically, these are the required jar files for a Spring program. Again, you can just click on Help, click on Marketplace. In the Search tab, just give as Springs. So here you can see Spring Tools 3 add-ons. You have to install this. It is very essential because it has to configure all the add-ons with Eclipse. So you have to install this. I have already installed, so it is saying as installed. So basically you can see here I have a Spring dashboard over here. So after installing this should appear. I hope that you understood about dependencies and everything from Maven repository. Now let's see how to create a basic customer service class and print few methods for demonstration. I have already created that, so I'll just open that project. So this should be your directory structure. As you can see, inside the source there is main, and inside main I have Java, and com.edureka is the group ID, and Edureka is the artifact ID, and I have three classes over here. So first I will open customer service. So here you can see I have used only two variables, that is name and URL, correct? And I have used some setters and getters, that is set name and set URL, and then trying to print the URL and the name using print name and print URL methods. Very simple class. So you don't have to worry about this directory structure because by default it will take this way. But the only thing that you have to worry about is your group ID, your artifact ID, etc. And now in the resources, I have customer.xml file. So these things you will get it from any of the website or anywhere. You can just copy and paste this for Springs, or else you can even note it down from here also. No issues for that. You can just pause it and you can just copy this thing from here. And now what we have to do here is, after writing this XML location and everything, we have to configure bean. In this, we will write a bean class with ID, name, value, etc. So bean ID will be your customer service, and class format goes like this, that is your group ID, artifact ID followed by the class name. And the property name will be a name of your own choice. I have given it as Edureka, and the value and property URL will be our Edureka website. You can give anything of your own choice. Apart from this, I have done one more thing here. That is, I have applied before advice method. It has to execute before the join point methods, and they are configured using before annotation mark. I'll show you where I have configured it using before annotation mark. So this will be your main class where you have declared your main method. In this main method, I have set application context and I've given the XML application context class path that will be your customer.xml because your XML file name is customer.xml. So you have to specify this. And then for getBean method, I'm giving it like appcontext.getBean, which will be your customer service proxy. So this customer service proxy is being set over here. That is your bean ID for before. If you don't want to do before advice, you can just simply delete this part and your output will be just Edureka and followed by your website name. But as I have already included before advice, so I'm specifying the bean ID will be customer service proxy, that which I have given in this file, that is your getBean, and this class will be from your factory bean, and the property will be target, and the reference will go to again customer service, and your property name will be inceptor's name. And I have given value like something before bean method. So what happens, this before bean method will be executed before the username and your website. Here you can see I have used a class name that implements method before advice, and I have used before method to print the message that is hijacked. Simple. Save this. Don't get confused. This is only for before advice. If you don't want before advice, you can just run it without this and just removing this part of code. But then as I have already used this before advice, I'm showing you how it works. So after that, in your main class, you can just simply print the customer name and customer URL. So let's run the program and check the output. So you can see here, as I told, without advice, it just prints Edureka and followed by your website. So this is how basically your Spring example works. Now we'll see different types of advices. That will be your before advice, after returning from the advice, and around the advice. So as you already know, before advice means it executes before the join point, that is your method. And next, after advice, it is advised to execute after the join point methods. And next will be your after returning from the advice, that is it executes after the join point completes. And Around the advice means it executes before and after the join points and are configured using @around annotation mark. Now we'll see how before advice and after advice works. All that you have to do is you have to make a small modification over here. So just change this customer service proxy, and in this all that you have to just do is include this bean configuration. That's all. So here you can see I have created a class called hijack after method so that it will display this message, that is your hijacking after method bean. So this message will be displayed after your join point, okay? Because I have applied the advice after the join point, so by default it will display it after the join point only. And I have made some modifications and given here as customer service proxy, and in the customer.xml file I have declared the bean ID as hijack after method bean and given the class name, that is your hijack after method class name. And then the bean ID will be customer service proxy and the class name will be by default from the Spring framework. And then property name will be your target and the reference will be customer service. So save this, and when you run the program, you can see the output over here. First will be your customer name, that is Edureka, and then it is telling hijack after method, that is after method it's been hijacked. And again it's telling the customer website, and again you're getting the advice after method. So this is how it works. If you want it before, I'll show you even how to do that as well. Nothing much change in this. The only change that happens will be in hijack after bean method and in customer.xml. Let's see how it occurs. I'll modify the same program. So what I have done here is, instead of giving hijack after method, I have given it before method, and I have changed implementation to before advice, and in displaying that I said it prints before method. Okay, save this and now go to customer.xml, wherein you have to change certain things. I'll tell you what are they. Everything remains same, you just have to give before over here and even over here as well. Save this, again run the program. So what you guess will be the output. So as I told, it appears before the method. So you can see here it's appearing before the customer name and the customer URL. So this is how before works, and if you want for around as well, I'll show you how. I will again modify this file. So this is my code in which I have given hijack around method and it implements method interceptor. And then I'm passing the name and arguments. I'm just telling like it has to print around the method. Again in try and catch block, I'm trying to catch an exception if it does not occur. Now again go back to your customer.xml file and change few things, that will be your around over here as well and even here as well. And again the same thing, even in case of value you have to make it around. Save this. As you can see, I'm not recompiling the entire thing. I'm just saving the files and I'm just executing, that is I'm running the main class only. This makes you understand it is very easy for maintaining purpose. So when you run this, let's check what will be the output for around the method. So here you can see first what it is printing, method arguments. Then it is telling it is hijack around the bean method. And again it's displaying its hijack. So what is happening here is it is getting hijacked around the name and URL. And then it's telling to print the URL, method arguments, and then if there is anything that has to be thrown as an exception, it is throwing here as well. So basically this is how you can apply the advices before, after, and around the join points, like that is around the methods. I hope you're clear with this. Now let's move further and understand the AspectJ annotations. One of the key components of Spring is the aspect-oriented programming framework, correct? While SpringIOC container does not depend on AOP, meaning that you don't need to use AOP if you don't want to. And AOP complements SpringIOC to provide a very capable middleware solution. Just like the key unit of modularity in AOP is the class, in AOP the unit of modularity is the aspect. Aspects enable the modularization of concerns such as transaction management that cut across multiple types and objects. And AspectJ has grown into a complete and popular AOP framework. and Spring support that are written with AspectJ Annotations. And since AspectJ Annotations are supported by more and more AOP frameworks, your AspectJ styles are more likely to be reused in AOP frameworks that support AspectJ. And now we'll see how we are implementing AspectJ over here. And for that, we are using AspectJ Annotations. So first, again, project dependencies, Spring Beans, enable the AspectJ and then apply advices. Let's see how to do that. So I have created 3 classes over here. One is track, one is operation, and the final main class, that is app.java. So in case of track class, I have applied the annotations, that is at aspect, at point cut, that will be your point cut name, and then I have applied before advice as well. So this is how basically we apply the annotations. And you can see here I have imported aspectj.lang.joinPoint as the annotation. So this will be my track.java, which is useful for tracking. And then in the operation class, I have message is invoked, method m is invoked, and method k is as well invoked. So that will be your method k, your method m, and the message. So finally, I'm giving it like return, return 1, return 2, return 3. And now coming to app.java, you can say I'm calling the message, I'm calling method m, and I'm calling method k. So in the application context, I'm just specifying the XML file that will be present in your resources. So again, it's similar. And here your bean ID will be opbean and your class will be this operation class. And then again, your one more bean ID will be trackMyBean and your class name will be this track. That will be followed by your group ID and artifact ID as well. Simple. So when it is calling this, I'll just give you a hint as how the output occurs. So first it says calling this message from this class. And it goes back to your operation class and it says message method is invoked. And then again it says I'm calling m and it again says method m is invoked and again it follows with k as well. So I'll save this and I will run the program. Let's wait for the output now. As I told you, it will tell calling message and it said message m is invoked. And then I'm calling method m and again it got invoked and again I'm calling k and even k method as well got invoked. So basically this app.java will redirect to operation.java class wherein it will call all these methods. And then I have used execution of operation m, that will be your point cut. So it will print accordingly. I hope you understood how point cuts, join points and aspects, everything can be applied and how advices can also be applied before the join point, after the join point, around the join points, etc. So I hope you understood how it works. If you need any help with the source code and everything, you can just comment your email IDs in the comment section below and we'll contact you and help you with the source code and material as well. That's all for the session. Thank you and have a nice day.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it and you can comment any of your doubts and queries and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!